Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Xin Ying, and this is Agency Agenda, a show that puts the mic in front of agency leaders, diving into how they navigate the ever-evolving advertising landscape. We have in the studio with us today, well, not really a studio. This is actually the Havas office. We have with us Rana Barua, Group CEO at Havas, overseeing India, Southeast Asia, as well as Japan and South Korea for North Asia. Prior to taking on the regional role, Rana was the Group CEO of Havas India based in Mumbai. He's also held leadership roles in Creative Land Asia and contract advertising, just to name a couple. We're going to dive right into it. Thanks for joining me for this episode.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And I've also heard that you've been doing your rounds through the Havas offices. How's the visits been like?
Yeah, so I was, in fact, we had a town hall today, and I was telling them that, it's because it's been a year and a half for me looking at this operation, which is the regional job. And year one was always, it's about understanding the markets, trying to figure out what are the changes that you need to do and what are the things you need to do. So I had actually not visited most of the markets except one or two where there were some really critical conversations that we were doing. So now that things are much better, I thought this was probably the best time to start visiting the markets before we get ready for next year. So it's been quite a whirlwind tour for me to visit so many markets in less than a month.
In less than a month?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Cramming it in, but I'm guessing it's been very productive.
It's been very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So what's the shift been like for you? Because you were, before this, purely based in India.
Yeah.
And now you're going back and forth between there and Singapore, and now you've been visiting different countries. But how do you think your experiences have prepped you for this wider regional role at Havas, overseeing India, Southeast Asia and North Asia now?
To be honest with you, and if I'm being absolutely candid here, I think you must prep for role profiles like this. Leaders who generally walk into a role profile and start conducting themselves the way they are, I'm not going to personally judge about them, but the chances of failure is high. Versus, when we were having this conversation internally about this role profile, I started prepping myself in a very different way. I started reading about a lot of these countries and their cultures and what the systems are. I started understanding the advertising a bit more, of the nuances of the local market advertising. I started understanding the behavioral syndromes of these markets, right? So first and foremost, I think you have to first understand the culture about the countries and where you're getting in, what kind of nuances are. Second, then what also happened, fortunately, is that I got the opportunity to go and do an advanced management program last year from the Wharton School. So, so that was courtesy Havas. And, we thought about that at this juncture of my career because I wanted to break my stereotypical thinking of leadership. And that entire college program threw me among 44 people from great nationalities, different countries, mostly leaders from all parts of the world, but different categories. Completely changed my approach about how you led countries or how you led a certain country or company versus how do you work in a completely diverse population, diverse countries and all. So I think it was a bit of hard work that had to be put in before I started getting into the countries more, seriously.
Right. Thank you for that. So that was a bit about getting to know who you are and how did you get into the industry. But now I want to dive into Havas's plans. So first off, we can't deny that there's been a lot of changes happening in Adland this year. Mergers, we've got leadership changes, so we have all the ebbs and flows that come with the industry. And even Havas officially spun off from Vivendi at the end of 2024. So that was relatively recent. But most recently, Havas aimed to deal with Moonfolks. So why Moonfolks and why now?
So Moonfolks actually happened, it wasn't planned per se kind of a movement. It was like, for me, last year when I took over January, I was looking at each of the markets specifically and trying to figure out what are the challenges in each of the markets that we had. Some were naturally, we were doing very well, and some markets had genuine challenges, and some markets were kind of stabilized and they were okay. Indonesia was a market which is very important for us, among the top priority one markets under me. For me, Indonesia is naturally a growing market, a growing economy, very diverse population. You keep hearing about the, economy going up and lots of conversations. And then when you start speaking to a lot of your client friends, you start realizing a lot of the, global companies are looking at Indonesia. Even the local companies in Indonesia are doing well. So we naturally needed a plan of action. And I think where we were naturally trying to figure that what do you do and how do you go and expand. And we had a very strong media operation, but also in the last few years, especially when I had just come on board, there were some client losses and some changes that had to happen. So we said, okay, what do? We started restructuring. And in that bargain, we realized that, we met Moonfolks. They were in the same building that our office is. So yeah, so it was maybe it was sign of the universe that it was supposed to be. Right. They were one floor above us. And I started talking to Anish, who's the owner and CEO of Moonfolks. And we started generally having conversation that you don't have a media agency. We don't have a creative presence. If we form a strategic alliance, does it make sense for you and all? So we gave it a lot of conversations. We thought about it and all. And for me, naturally, it was a great move because, we could create a village kind of a model immediately. Anish is a very respected CEO of the market. Everybody knows Moonfolks. Yeah. And naturally for us, it became an obvious, logical way of at least making your presence felt. And also giving our clients an opportunity to say that, we can give you better solutions and create better stuff. So, and it's been, 7 months now or 8 months? And I just came from Indonesia. Yes. There's a lot of hope and, a lot of plans we have for it. So I'm quite confident going forward, it'll only get better.
Right. So what about, since we touched a bit on mergers and acquisitions, right? So are you guys open to more of this? Are you open to more M&As or maybe even split ups?
No, so I think in terms of M&As, the group's philosophy has always been very straightforward. They always believe that, in markets where there is potential and markets which is dominant and will play a very important role, we must continuously look for expertise that we don't have. So that's a brief we always have.
Right.
So to answer your question simply, I'm always looking out for some form of expansion. It might be through an M&A. It might be through a partnership. It might be through creating a collaboration. So we are always open, which is naturally it keeps me very busy. Why? Because it's also a way of knowing what's happening in the market.
Right.
It's just not about getting into an acquisition. It's also about trying to understand what expertise is there in the market that you cannot have.
Or who's in the game.
Or who's in the game. Yeah. So it's so many things. I was in Japan. I met some fabulous prospects. Now, whether it's an acquisition or whether it will be a partnership or whether it will just be an alliance. But the point is, it's fascinating to know what those guys are up to and people with various interests. So that's number one for us. Number one. So we are always watching out for what's available in the market. Might be only for a local solution. Sometimes it's also for a regional solution. So some example, if we get something in Singapore or Thailand, which kind of looks after the expertise for Asia per se, that will be excellent. Or there are times that, there are companies which are now emerging from parts of Asia, which can maybe also become a global solution. So, if it becomes a global solution, so be it. Right. So I think that way the company is naturally, very open to such conversations.
Right. Interesting to hear that that's a top priority, that's number one on mine. But what would you say actually differentiates Havas from all the other agencies and networks out there in the market?
So I think the fundamental difference that I keep telling people is that, there are two actually. One is that we are not as large as the other networks. And we've always been proud about that fact, because sometimes we believe when you become too big, too large, you lose focus on your clients or you tend to start losing your way sometimes. And without mentioning anything, we can see what's happening in the environment at large. We are a smaller network and, we know what our strengths are and we know how to add value to our clients. And we are pretty comfortable and there's nothing that, Yannick has always been saying that we are a, smaller network and we are very, very comfortable with that positioning. Why? Because we can look after our clients better. We have solutions better. And to be honest, the village model works better for me that way because it's easily manageable. I can execute ideas quicker and I can manage the companies better. It's not like I have, a lot of white elephants in my room or something.
Right.
So it's one controllable. So I think that's a big strength. For me, that's been a big advantage on my work style. Second, I think our biggest differentiator is we are very strongly entrepreneurial. Because of the family-owned business, unlike others, we are extremely entrepreneurial in our approach. We take the businesses and we look at the businesses in a very different way. We can take more risks. We can, like I said, we can do a lot of these conversations of alliances and partnerships in an easier way. We move things quicker. We don't have a long list of people that need to go bureaucratic. For example, if I've got a great idea or I've got a great something going, I can move things much quicker than, let's say, if I was somebody else, because it's a very entrepreneur-led network. Because we realize that if you get an option, you must quickly close the door, otherwise you may lose that opportunity. Right. So these two make it very, very strongly differentiated for us. And I think what we've also now launched is something called Converged AI, which is now an operating tool, which we've started working across all the verticals, which is slowly becoming a very strong differentiator for us versus the others.
Especially in this day and age, AI is a hot topic. So getting on top of the game. So since we're seated here in the Havas Malaysia office, I find it apt to ask, what's the plan in Malaysia then? Like, Havas has actually tried to crack the market before, but how's that going this time around?
So I'll be absolutely frank, I'm quite happy with the Malaysia performance this year. Nizwani, who's the CEO, and I think her partner, Dawn, they came more or less at the same time. I think Dawn came a few months before her. So she'll be completing 2 years here. Year one was naturally like everybody, you give each other some time. I had also come on board. She was also new. I think we were all trying to figure out the market. It's a better year for us. I'm talking just not pure numbers here. I'm saying overall the atmosphere is better. I can see a lot more of energy on the floor. Culturally, they're doing better work. At least they're trying to get to the shortlist and start winning. They've got some conversations going. The people are trying to do something different. The pitches, I can see are much better pitches. Invites are happening. The conversions have started happening. Yes, of course, we'll always want to have more conversions, but I'm sure that also will happen. We're having a lot of discussions over the next 2-3 days about what we can do. I think the plans for Malaysia, like I'm saying, if you look at my top few markets, Malaysia will be in the top few markets in this part of the world, right? Because I feel the potential is large. It's got pretty large global brands out of this market. And the way I see it, and it's quite interesting because it's very unique to, let's say, a Japan or a Malaysia or Singapore or some of these countries, where even India, for example, you have very large brands coming out of those markets, right? Yeah. So India has a lot of India brands, maybe not large global brands. Japan has phenomenally large global brands out of Japan. It's like crazy. You suddenly come to Malaysia and you realize there are a lot of local large brands that are growing, and you have global brands coming out of this market also. So, whether it's in banks or whether it's in petrol, whether it's, I think those are the kind of sectors you realize that you must tap into to get that presence into overall scale. So I think it's got great potential here. Great potential. So, and also I think what they had also done smartly is that they've kind of diversified services also. So it's just not creative. They've got creative, they have health. We've got presence in CX. We've got studio, which is pros on pixels. So the point is the village model starts helping her try out various new experiments and new solutions for clients. I think that's where a lot of her strength will come in Malaysia also.
Hope to see more good stuff.
Let's hope so.
Malaysia, yeah. So now we take a step back, right? What are the key priorities that you have for growing Havas across Southeast Asia and also North Asia in the coming year? Well, we've covered Malaysia, but what about the rest of
No, so I think it's two. I think you can actually see it in two ways. If I had to look at it structurally, there is a lot of media that we are naturally working harder on. We have a regional president who joined in Singapore, who's also the Singapore CEO, Pankaj. He was brought in, and there's a lot of work that's going on behind the scene to ensure that we have a seamless way of working across the region. So there's a lot of work happening on Havas Play, CSA, Havas Market. This is all media I'm talking about. There's a lot of work happening. We've got some very smart people who we brought on board, over the last few months to ensure that this entire operations of media starts taking shape. We are hoping that, if this One Asia model starts working better for us, a lot more of regional pitches, we can start at least being more effective. If we start winning, great. At least the One Asia model is supposed to be where the countries are actually borderless. If I have to say that, okay, if it's, let's say, a pitch out of Singapore or Malaysia, the forces can come together and help pitch together.
Right.
Because somebody may be sitting out of Thailand, some leadership may be sitting out of Philippines, some leadership is working out of Singapore, somebody is sitting out of Japan. It doesn't matter. The point is, if all of them come together, the One Asia philosophy starts working. So for me, getting the media model and the product is absolutely high priority. Getting the One Asia philosophy and way of working, we've got the people. It's started to work together because we are seeing the results. And third, I think, is also the winning I'm calling it regional pitches.
Yeah.
But if I say regional pitches and I'm adding, some strong, large creative mandates and media, I think for us to grow, we have to start winning some larger new businesses. So whether the new businesses emerging from just the market or if these are regional, better.
Okay.
So these three for me are naturally going to be extremely critical on way forward. So I think there are opportunities that's happening. Why? Because if you look at a philosophy of, this is a global brand and this is a global brand which is very strong in Asia, the Asia teams sometimes are looking for solutions for localization and only Asia. So there are conversations that happen where I'm not saying everybody asks for a regional pitch, but they'll say, okay, so if somebody says, okay, I'm going to open up this conversation, how are you doing in Vietnam? They'll ask. So it's maybe 1+1. So something opens up in Indonesia is also looking at Vietnam as an important market. Somebody is opening up in Malaysia is saying, yeah, I also have to go into Thailand. It makes it easier to have a conversation to say that I'm strong I'm together in most markets, because if you start weighing one country against the other, it might get a bit difficult.
Right. So banking on the regional capabilities.
Exactly. Because it does. See, for me, post-COVID, I don't think it should matter where the people are, because people have taken the decisions that I'm happier staying in Thailand. Somebody saying I'm happier living in Malaysia. Somebody saying I'm happier in Indonesia. But one of the things I've learned also in this whole last 2 months is the travel factor. So I've realized that actually most of the flights are very short. Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to, like, if you ever come to the city of Mumbai, I will do 2 trips. By the time I cover one city in Bombay, I probably would have gone to KL and come back. By the time I move from my office to my home. So the point is, people they're okay to travel, you know what I'm saying? And if that be the philosophy, then you can get the best talent out of whichever country. I don't need to feel insecure by some client saying, so is your key person here or whatever is here? I'll say, no, my key person sits in Philippines, which is not far away.
That's a very interesting point you brought up, because I did actually want to touch on talent.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on talent pipelines across Asia, and how are you investing in developing the next generation of agency leaders?
Exactly.
What would you say?
I think it's a catch-22. To be honest, I will be absolutely honest here that it's not the easiest time for the talent for the industry. I think for all the consolidation and what's happening, there's naturally they're hearing more about layoffs than about hiring. It's a bit of a catch-22 now for the system, but I think every industry goes through its ups and downs. We went through our ups and downs also, but I think the talent still exists. I think the nature of talent has changed.
Right. How so?
It's maybe I think the way they're far different in terms of their way they work, their impressions, their opinions versus our style of working, which is very different. The talent has naturally, it's far younger. They're far more ambitious.
Yeah.
Or they're far more laid back. It's okay. So people get very hassled about, this one is not ambitious. My point is, it's okay. It's that person's, as long as that person is effective, how does it matter? So, you'll have various schools of thought about various schools. That's why I said, when I went back to college, all these myths, as I call them, got broken. These are all myths. This is how the millennials behave. Myth. They are very ambitious. Myth. They're very slow and laid back.
Everyone's getting more polarized. They're not just black and white.
It's nothing. I'm telling you, it it's an individual-led world. There are no cohorts. Earlier, we used to get classified or typified as cohorts. One of the things that you are going to more find, and I think which is exciting, is that, like today I was doing a town hall, there were a few bunch of people who were far more evocative and noisy, and there were many who were quieter, which doesn't mean that this one is more evocative and this one is not, right? It's about, it's his, who's. So I think that's very strong and that's nice, because in our world, especially advertising and media, you definitely need people with opinions. You definitely need people with a point of view. There has been a phase of advertising when there were no points of view and people were just following leaders.
But then, Rana, how do you tailor Havas' strategy across such diverse markets? You have India, you have China, you have Southeast Asia, I think you mentioned Thailand, and in Indonesia as well, while maintaining a unified vision for the whole agency.
So it's beautifully managed by a global ecosystem. So globally, it's very streamlined, and being part of a French network, being part of the family-led way of working, it makes, like I said, sometimes size matters, sometimes size actually makes it easier. So it's a much more simplified way of working. If we have issues or challenges, we immediately raise it. Culturally, it's a very simple way of working. We try and evoke a lot of internal guidelines where we keep engaging with our people. The women leadership is greatly encouraged out here. If you see the entire split, the ratios are very strong for us in most markets. So it's a very, very forthcoming and engaging kind of a cultural moment. We like to talk to our people. We like to know what they're thinking. We do our audit reports or due diligence where we meet our people more often, sometimes twice a year, just to get their feedback about the engagement, how we are doing, how's the leadership doing. We take the feedback very seriously. So it's very uniform that way. Right. So if a certain country is going down and a certain country is doing well, then you pick up that certain country and say, what happened there? You go deep dive in and you realize it. It's very easy to then deep dive and understand why there are issues in this particular country and why this country is doing well.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to round off this conversation we've had. So you're the CEO, you're the go-to operations guy here. What's the one piece of advice that you give to Adland and the agency world on how to be more operationally efficient and nimble, especially in this day and age?
So it sounds simple, but I know it sounds simple, but I think 2 or 3 things that one must keep in mind. I think, I was just discussing with some people here also and before the other countries also. I think first and foremost, I think we need to be far more flexible and accommodating in our thinking. Number one, we cannot be rigid. I'm telling you, that's something that we must be very clear about. You may have a school of thought, it's fine, but you have to be flexible and accommodating, because like I said, there is not one suit which fits all. You will have to understand that the fabric will cut the way that country is shaped. So that is one that I keep telling everybody, that it's good to be nimble, it's good to be this, but maybe culturally that country behaves in a certain way. Maybe culturally some countries want things done quicker. Maybe culturally some things. You need to be very careful about how that understands. So that's naturally, one has to be far more flexible and accommodating. I think secondly, be open to change.
Well, that comes with flexibility, right? Then you
absolutely. Be open to change. If you're flexible, then only you'll be open to change. If your first answer is no, you have a problem. You got to be open. You got to understand that, and that can be anything. It can be ways of working, it can be people, it can be clients, it can be conversations, it can be partners, it can be anything. And third, please be innovative. Please be innovative with your approach, whether it's conversations, whether it's storytelling, whether it is creative ideas, whether it is media solutions, whether it's whatever we do. You need to be innovative. And innovative sounds like a very large word. Actually, it's very simple. Innovative basically means to think, just if you can think a bit out of the box. Right. Like I said, I started by telling you that we get, typified in a certain way. It's a stereotypical way of working. Oh, that's him. That's how he is. But if you don't know me, how will you know how I am? It's because that's how the world starts slotting you. I think that's where some of us have got stuck in to say that okay, if I do it this way, then things will change. The point is that what if you didn't do it that way, then what happened?
Thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
points of views. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this
Thank you. Thank you very much.
insightful conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of Agency Agenda, Rana. And to the listeners out there, fear not, although this interview with Rana Barua is over, we've got loads of other episodes on Marketing Connected. You can find it on your go-to podcast platforms or even on YouTube. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive.
Thank you very much. Thank you.